The kingdom of Velmora did not fear war. It did not fear famine. It did not even fear the ruthless Alpha King, who ruled with iron command and silver eyes. It feared the dragon that lived beneath the palace, the dragon that answered only to Alpha King Kael Draven. They said the beast was born the same night Kael was, that its first roar cracked the sky and stained the moon red, that its fire did not burn flesh, it burned souls. No one had seen it clearly and survived long enough to describe it. And yet every night when the wind shifted across the cliffs, a low, tortured growl echoed beneath the marble halls of the Draven Palace. The people whispered, "The king is cursed, the dragon is his shadow, the beast feeds on enemies," but they did not know the truth. The dragon was dying, far beyond Velmora's black stone gates. In a quiet forest village called Lyra lived a girl who had never feared monsters. Her name was Lyra Vale. She was not noble, not powerful, not even a wolf of rank, an Omega healer, gentle, overlooked, underestimated. But when she touched something broken, it healed. Lyra knelt beside an injured wolf pup, her fingers glowing faintly as golden warmth flowed from her palms. The pup's torn leg knitted together beneath her touch. The villagers watched with awe. "Lyra," old Mara whispered, "you were born under the blood moon. Your power is ancient." Lyra only smiled softly. She never liked attention. She liked quiet rivers, wildflowers, the scent of rain before storms. She did not know that the storm had already begun. In Velmora's throne room, Kael Draven stood before the council, his jaw tight. His silver eyes flickered, not with rage, with pain. The dragon beneath the palace screamed. The sound cracked through stone like thunder. Council members flinched. "It grows worse, Your Majesty," one elder said nervously. "The beast's fire is unstable. If it dies," Kael's voice cut like steel. "It will not die, because if it did, he would too." The dragon was not merely a creature, it was bound to him. Its life tethered to his own. Years ago, in a battle to protect the realm from rogue alphas and dark magic, Kael had been cursed. A dying warlock had unleashed forbidden power, merging dragon essence with the alpha's soul. Since that night, the dragon lived within him. Sometimes beneath him, sometimes inside him. When Kael lost control, villages burned. When he felt rage, the dragon answered. And now something was killing it from within. The royal healers had failed. The witches had failed. The beast grew weaker each night, and Kael felt his own strength fading. "Bring me every healer in the kingdom," he ordered. And so the summons spread like wildfire, from mountain packs, from river clans, from hidden villages. Including Lyra, Lyra stood frozen as the royal messenger unrolled the parchment. "All healers are commanded to Velmora by decree of Alpha King Kael Draven." The villagers murmured in fear. "No one returns from the palace. They say the dragon devours them." Lyra's hands trembled, but deep in her chest something stirred. A pull, a whisper, not fear, calling. That night, under the silver moon, she packed her satchel. Her mother's old silver pendant rested against her heart. "Don't go," Amara pleaded. Lyra's eyes lifted toward the distant cliffs, barely visible beyond forest mist. "If something is suffering," she whispered softly, "I cannot ignore it." She did not know she was walking toward fate. The palace gates of Velmora towered like jagged teeth against the sky. Lyra felt small. The other healers beside her wore rich robes and carried enchanted staffs. They glanced at her simple dress with quiet scorn. An Omega, what could she possibly do? Inside, the air was heavy, hot, almost breathing. A low rumble vibrated through the floor. The dragon, her heartbeat synced with it. Thud, growl, the great throne doors opened, and there he stood, Alpha King Kael Draven. Tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in black fur and shadow. His silver eyes scanned the gathered healers with cold authority. When his gaze landed on Lyra, the air changed. Something ancient shifted. The dragon beneath the palace growled, not in rage. In recognition, Lyra gasped softly. She felt it. Pain, loneliness, fire burning through chains. Kael's expression hardened. "Step forward," he commanded. Without thinking, Lyra obeyed. She stood before the most feared alpha in the realm. Up close, she saw the truth. Dark veins pulsed faintly beneath his skin. His breathing was uneven. He was suffering. and trying desperately to hide it. "You are an Omega," he said quietly, not an insult, a fact. "Yes, your majesty." A tremor shook the floor. The dragon screamed, a broken anguish sound. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Take me to it," she whispered. The council gasped. Kael's eyes flashed dangerously. "No one commands me." "I am not commanding you," she said gently. She met his gaze fully. "I am asking." "Silence," the dragon roared again, louder. Kael's hand clenched at his side. Pain laced his expression. For the first time in years, someone looked at him without fear, without hunger for power, without trembling, just compassion. "Follow me," he growled. Deep beneath the palace, iron doors opened. Heat poured out like a living thing. Lyra stepped inside and saw it, massive, black-scaled, chains of enchanted silver wrapped around its wings. Its eyes, the same silver as Kael's, flickered weakly. Smoke curled from its nostrils. Wounds glowed along its chest, dark magic eating at its core. Lyra's breath caught. "It's not evil," she whispered. Kael's voice was rough. "It is destruction." "No," she said softly. She stepped closer. The dragon lifted its massive head. Guards tensed. Kael's voice thundered, "Do not move another step." But Lyra ignored him. Because she could hear it, not with her ears, with her soul. It was afraid. She reached out her trembling hand. The dragon lowered its head slowly. The chains rattled, and when her palm touched its scales, golden light exploded through the chamber. The dragon roared, not in pain, in relief. Kael staggered back as warmth flooded through his veins. The dark veins beneath his skin began to fade. For the first time in years, the dragon's breathing steadied. Lyra collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Kael stared at her in disbelief. "What are you?" he whispered. Lyra looked up at him, just a healer, but in her eyes he saw his salvation, and something far more dangerous. Bond outside the kingdom waited in fear. Inside the dungeon, the Alpha King felt something he had long forgotten. Hope and the dragon, once feared by all, closed its eyes peacefully beneath her gentle touch. The golden light faded slowly, like dawn retreating into embers. Silence filled the underground chamber. The dragon's massive chest rose and fell in steady rhythm for the first time in years. The black rot that had been spreading through its scales retreated under Lyra's trembling hands, and Kael felt it inside himself. The constant clawing agony in his ribs gone, the burning in his veins soothed, the suffocating rage quiet. He looked down at his hands as if they no longer belonged to him. "What did you do?" he demanded, but his voice lacked its usual steel. Lyra swayed where she knelt. "I listened," she whispered. The dragon's enormous silver eye opened slightly, not wild, not feral. Peaceful, it lowered its head again, nudging her gently as if afraid she might disappear. The guards stared in stunned silence. No one touched the dragon and lived, no one until Kael stepped closer. Heat radiated from the beast, but it no longer scorched his skin. When he stood beside Lyra, something impossible happened. The dragon's heartbeat aligned with theirs. 3 rhythms, 1 pulse. Lyra gasped softly. "You're bound too tightly," she murmured. Kael's jaw tightened. "The curse cannot be broken." "I am not trying to break it," she replied. She lifted her exhausted gaze to meet his. "I'm trying to balance it." Those words struck deeper than any blade. Balance, not dominance, not destruction. Not control, balance. Kael had ruled by control his entire life. He did not know how to live any other way. They carried Lyra to a royal chamber high above the dungeon. She slept for 2 days. During those 2 days, the dragon did not roar once. The palace trembled not from fire, but from whispers. The Omega touched it. The beast obeyed her. The king has found his cure. But Kael knew this was no cure. This was something older, older than the curse, older than the throne. When Lyra finally woke, she found him standing near the balcony, moonlight carving silver across his sharp features. He did not turn when she stirred. "You could have died," he said quietly. "So could he," she replied. That made him look at her. "You risked your life for a monster." Lyra sat up slowly. "He is not a monster." Kael's eyes darkened. "You've seen what he can do." "Yes," she said softly. "I've also seen what pain can do." Silence stretched between them. Dangerous, intimate. You feel everything, don't you? He asked. She nodded. I felt his fear, his loneliness. He's been chained not just by magic, but by guilt. Kael's hands clenched behind his back. The dragon burned an entire rebel pack 12 years ago. Lyra's voice gentled. Because you lost control. The words were not accusation, they were truth. Kael inhaled sharply. No one spoke to him like this? No one dared, but she did not speak like a subject to a king. She spoke like someone who saw him. That night, the dragon stirred again. Not in agony, in restlessness. Kael felt it immediately. He closed his eyes. She wants you, he said. Lyra blinked. Kael gave a faint, almost embarrassed nod. I know her presence, her instincts. The dragon is female. Lyra smiled faintly. Then she is not just your shadow. She is your guardian. The words warmed him in places long frozen. They descended again into the chamber. This time, the chains glowed faintly, reacting to Lyra's presence. The dragon lifted her head when Lyra entered. A low rumble filled the air, not threatening, welcoming. Lyra approached more confidently now. When her hand met the scales again, her golden light returned, softer this time. More controlled, Kael stepped closer without thinking. The dragon's tail shifted, curling protectively around them both. And suddenly, a surge of power exploded outward. Not destructive, binding. A mark flared across Kael's chest beneath his shirt. Lyra gasped as warmth seared gently across her collarbone. They both stumbled back. Kael tore open his collar. There, over his heart, burned the image of a dragon intertwined with a crescent moon. Lyra's fingers trembled as she touched her own mark. The same symbol. The chamber fell utterly silent, even the dragon froze. Kael's voice lowered to something almost reverent. That is the mark of sovereign bond. Lyra's heartbeat pounded in her ears. Sovereign. It is older than the mating bond, he said slowly. It is said to bind ruler and equal. Equal. The word felt heavier than the chains around the dragon. Kael stared at her as if seeing her for the first time. Not Omega, not healer, not fragile, chosen. The dragon lowered her massive head between them and exhaled warm smoke, sealing it. Above ground, the sky split with lightning. Across the kingdom, wolves lifted their heads. They felt it. The Alpha King had been marked, but not by conquest. By bond, days passed. Lyra remained in the palace. The dragon grew stronger each hour she spent near her. But something else grew too. Kael's restraint began to crack, not from rage, from awareness. Her scent lingered in corridors. Her laugh echoed softly through stone halls. She did not bow deeply when she spoke to him anymore. She looked at him. And every time she did, the dragon purred within his chest. One evening, they stood on the palace balcony overlooking Velmora. You should return home, Kael said quietly. Lyra stiffened. Do you want me to? He hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. The council fears what this bond means, he continued. They will pressure me to choose a political bride. And what do you want? She asked softly. Kael stepped closer, too close. I want, he said carefully, to not feel my kingdom tremble every time I lose control. That is not what I asked. Her bravery both infuriated and fascinated him. He leaned down slightly, his voice low. I want the dragon calm. And me, she whispered. The dragon stirred violently inside him. Desire flared hot and sudden, but beneath it fear. He had ruled through fear his whole life. He did not know how to choose with his heart. Before he could answer, a horn sounded across the courtyard. An alarm, guards shouted. Kael's expression shifted instantly back to Alpha. What is it? He barked as a soldier rushed forward. Your Majesty, the northern packs have revolted. They claim the dragon's weakness is a sign you are unfit to rule. The dragon's calm shattered. A roar thundered beneath the palace. Kael staggered as fury flooded his veins. The mark on his chest burned violently. Lyra grabbed his arm. Kael breathed. His eyes flashed molten silver. They think I am weak, he growled. You are not weak, she said firmly. But if you let rage command you now. The dragon's wings slammed against stone below. Fire began to leak from between the chains. Kael's control slipped. Lyra stepped in front of him. Look at me. He tried to turn away. She cupped his face. Golden warmth surged between them. Balance, she whispered. The word anchored him. The fire dimmed. The roar softened. The rebellion outside still raged, but inside the beast quieted. Kael looked down at her, breath heavy. "They will come for you," he said darkly. "If they believe you are my strength, they will see you as my weakness." Lyra did not flinch. "Then do not hide me." The challenge in her eyes ignited something far deeper than fury. The dragon growled, not in anger. In approval. Kael straightened slowly. His voice carried across the courtyard like thunder. "Prepare the army." He turned back to Lyra. "This ends now." Her heart pounded. War. His silver eyes softened just slightly as they rested on her. "No," he said quietly, "a declaration." The next morning, the entire kingdom gathered before the palace. Rebel alphas stood in chains. The council waited. The dragon stirred beneath the stone, not in rage. In strength, Kael stepped forward onto the balcony. Lyra stood beside him, not behind. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He took her hand, not secretly, openly. His voice boomed across Velmora. "For years you feared the dragon." A rumble echoed beneath the earth, controlled. "Today you will witness her." The ground trembled, stone doors shattered open. The dragon emerged into the sunlight for the first time in a decade. Massive, majestic, healed, she did not roar. She spread her wings and bowed her head beside Lyra. The crowd fell to their knees. Kael's grip tightened around Lyra's hand. "She is not destruction," he declared. "She is protector of this realm." He looked down at Lyra. "And this woman," the dragon exhaled a plume of silver flame into the sky. "She is chosen." The words hung in the air like prophecy. Not yet bride, not yet queen, but chosen, and every wolf in the kingdom felt the shift. Power had found its balance. But deep within the northern mountains, a shadow watched, ancient, patient. The curse that bound dragon and king had not been created without purpose. And something far darker had begun to awaken. The celebration in Velmora lasted 3 nights. Wolves who had once trembled at the mere mention of the dragon now lifted goblets beneath her shadow. Children pointed in awe as she soared once above the palace towers. Silver fire tracing harmless light across the sky. For the first time in years, the kingdom did not fear its king. It believed in him, and that belief came from one quiet Omega who stood at his side. But peace, Kael knew, was fragile. Power always drew eyes. That night, long after the music faded, Lyra stood alone on the palace balcony. The wind tugged at her hair as she stared toward the northern mountains, jagged silhouettes against a clouded moon. Her mark burned faintly beneath her collarbone, not painfully, warning. She closed her eyes and felt it. A presence, cold, ancient, watching. The dragon stirred below, restless. "You feel it too." Kael's voice was low behind her. She turned. Moonlight carved sharp lines across his face, but his eyes were not hard tonight. They were searching. "Yes," she whispered, something old, older than the curse. Kael stepped beside her. "The warlock who bound the dragon to me died 12 years ago." Lyra shook her head gently. "Curses like that are not born from one man's anger. They are inherited, crafted, passed down." The word inherited hung heavy between them. Kael's jaw tightened. "You believe this was planned?" "I believe," she said softly, "that someone wanted the Alpha King to carry destruction inside him." The dragon let out a low rumble beneath the palace, not rage. Recognition. Far in the northern mountains, within a cavern carved by black ice, a pair of golden eyes opened. A woman stepped from the shadows, tall, draped in dark crimson furs, her hair white as frost, Seraphine. The last blood witch of the Ember Order. She placed her hand against a stone altar, etched with dragon sigils. "The bond has awakened," she murmured. A flicker of green flame rose between her fingers, so the girl lives. Her lips curved slowly. "Good." The next morning, Velmora's gates erupted in chaos. A messenger stumbled through, bleeding, barely conscious. Northern border destroyed, fire from the sky. Kael's eyes flashed fire. Lyra's heart dropped. The dragon had not left Velmora. They both felt her here. So what? A roar echoed across the distant cliffs. Not hers, deeper, wilder. Kael's entire body went rigid. "That's impossible," he whispered. Lyra's voice was barely audible. "There's another." By nightfall, smoke stained the northern horizon. Kael stood in the war chamber, generals surrounding the map table. Scouts confirm it. One said shakily, "A dragon, your majesty, larger than any recorded, and not bound." Another added. Kael's hands pressed against the stone table. For 12 years, he had believed his dragon was the last of her kind. A weapon forged by curse, but if another lived, then the curse was not unique. It was design. Lyra stepped into the chamber, unafraid of interrupting war talk. The generals fell silent at her presence. Kael looked at her, and the dragon inside him calmed instantly. "They are drawing it here," Lyra said quietly. "Who?" Kael demanded. "The same force that forged your bond." She stepped closer to the map. "This dragon is not attacking randomly. It is moving in a pattern." Her finger traced a line through villages, all former strongholds of rebel alphas from 12 years ago. Kael's breath slowed. "It's targeting bloodlines." Yes. A terrible realization dawned in his eyes. "They're erasing every pack that opposed the curse, and when they are done," Lyra whispered, "they will come for you." That night, Kael descended to the chamber below. His dragon paced within her chains, restless but controlled. "She knows," he murmured. The dragon lowered her head toward him. Lyra entered quietly. When she placed her hand on the dragon's scales, images flooded her mind. Flashes of fire. 2 hatchlings, a ritual circle, a woman with white hair chanting. Lyra gasped and pulled back. She had a sister. Lyra whispered. Kael stiffened. "What?" "Your dragon was not alone when she was taken. There were 2. The dragon released a low, mournful sound that shook the chamber. "They separated them," Lyra continued, tears in her eyes. "One bound to you, the other raised in darkness." Kael's voice turned lethal. "Raised to kill me. Before dawn, the attack came. The sky split open with flame. A monstrous silhouette tore through clouds, crimson scales blazing like molten iron. The unbound dragon, Velmora, erupted into panic. The creature roared and unleashed fire toward the outer towers. Kael ran toward the courtyard, shifting mid-stride, bones cracking, muscles tearing, power exploding outward. His dragon burst free from the dungeon in a storm of shattered stone and silver flame. Lyra stood frozen for half a heartbeat as the 2 titans met in the sky. Silver against crimson, sister against sister, the impact shook the entire kingdom. Fire rained down. Guards scrambled. Wolves shifted to protect civilians. Lyra felt the pain rip through her bond as claws tore into Kael's dragon. She fell to her knees, gripping her chest. "Stop," she whispered through tears. The crimson dragon's eyes were wild. Enslaved by something unseen, Lyra forced herself to stand. She ran toward the highest tower, ignoring the chaos. If the dragon was controlled, then the controller must be near. Wind lashed her hair as she reached the top. And there, standing calmly amid the inferno, was Seraphine. White hair whipping in the storm, golden eyes glowing. "You should not have healed her," the witch said coolly. Lyra's heart pounded. "You cursed them." Seraphine smiled faintly. "I preserved balance, by turning them into weapons, by ensuring the Alpha line could never grow too powerful." Lightning cracked behind her. "The dragons were guardians once, but guardians can become kings, and kings can become tyrants." Lyra's voice trembled with fury. "So you broke them." "I bound one to control the throne," Seraphine said, "and raised the other to destroy it when necessary." Below, silver and crimson collided again in a devastating crash. Kael's roar echoed with pain. Lyra stepped forward. "You call this balance? This is cruelty." Seraphine's eyes narrowed. "You think compassion makes you strong?" Lyra's mark flared brilliantly. "No," she said, "steady now." "Connection does." She closed her eyes and reached through the bond. Not to Kael, to the crimson dragon. She pushed past the rage, past the fire, searching, and she found it. Fear, loneliness, the same agony her sister once carried. "You were stolen," Lyra whispered into the storm. "You were shaped into fury." The crimson dragon faltered midair. Kael's dragon did not strike. She hovered, wounded but waiting. Seraphine hissed, "Do not listen to her." Lyra's golden light burst outward, brighter than before. "You are not her weapon." The crimson dragon's roar shifted. from rage to confusion. Chains of green magic flickered faintly around her wings. Lyra saw them, invisible shackles. Seraphine raised her hands, chanting. The chains tightened. The crimson dragon screamed. Kael's voice thundered across the sky in dragon form, silver fire blazing. Lyra screamed back, "Kael, don't kill her." He hesitated. That hesitation saved them, because Lyra leaped forward and grabbed Seraphine's arm. Golden light collided with green flame. The tower cracked beneath them. Seraphine snarled, "You cannot break blood magic." Lyra's eyes burned with tears and fury. "No, but I can heal what you broke." She poured everything into the bond, her strength, her fear, her love. The golden light wrapped around the crimson dragon's chains, and one by one they shattered. The sky went silent. The crimson dragon hovered, trembling, free. She looked at her silver sister. Then slowly she lowered her head. Not in defeat, in recognition. Seraphine staggered back, horror flashing across her face. No, that was not the design. Kael shifted back midair, landing heavily on the tower as flames died around them. His eyes were blazing silver, but not with rage. With awe, Lyra collapsed forward. He caught her before she hit the stone. The two dragons circled once above the palace, silver and crimson. Then they landed side by side in the courtyard. The kingdom watched in stunned silence. Seraphine tried to flee, but Kael's voice stopped her. "It ends." Guards seized the witch as her magic flickered out. The curse broken, not by force, by healing. As dawn broke over Velmora, the dragons rested peacefully atop the palace walls. Kael held Lyra close, her breathing shallow but steady. "You could have died," he murmured roughly. She smiled faintly, but I didn't. He brushed his forehead against hers, intimate, raw. "You are not my weakness," he said quietly. "You are my strength." The mark over his heart glowed softly. The kingdom no longer feared the dragon. It revered her, and the Alpha Kings no longer ruled alone.